Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Pastor Paul, God bless you. Doing okay this evening.
All right. Praise God. Praise God. I don't know if you heard that last little dialogue here on the alien hearings, claims of UFO crash sites and reverse engineering, shaking up Congress. We've talked about
Yep.
this, Mike, many times.
Yep.
Let's go into this for a minute because these guys that were at the hearings were saying, look, we know, we met, we've seen, we have, and let's quit kidding ourselves. Too many people have had encounters with something, with entities of some sort. And we know that we can read in the Bible about people, we can go to Genesis 6 and we can go to a lot of places. But Mike, are we about to get some type of release or some kind of information? Or are we about to encounter lost civilizations or underground civilizations or under the sea civilizations? Are we about ready to experience something that's going to blow our minds?
Yeah, it'll probably do more than that.
Okay.
It's a very in-depth subject, right? People are still very hesitant to talk about that subject, even with what's been disclosed is simply tech or craft or different things people have seen. They acknowledge that. They said, hey, they're real, they're not ours. Then of course this last hearing, Luis Alzano, he's going into somebody introduced crash retrieval. That's what
Right.
they're getting at. But see, he knows what that is. That's why he's not giving up the information. Essentially, what this is about is to try and see what's known. They already know what's known. Those are special access programs, right? And so in a special access program, Congress is briefed. The Gang of Eight is briefed to a degree, and so they're trying to find out exactly what he knows, right?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
everybody that comes out and gives in-depth information, something happens. Even the last, if you go look at the people who were involved in the last one, they're not so enthused to continue giving out specific information. There's a cutoff point, and so when they start doing these special access programs, there are quite a few of them. They do not want that uncovered, because the Defense Contracts and Auditing Agency, they go over that a lot. These are some pretty tough folks out there, right? Qualified folks who have been Delta operators and up, doing things like that. They don't want to cross lines with those guys because they can essentially touch everybody. And so that's a very in-depth subject. But what people will find out is that yes, they did recover some tech. They've been recovering tech, whether by archaeology or by some of the ones who still occupy Earth. But what's been happening is unavoidable. Now it's unavoidable, which is why they're coming out with it. I think if it were a perfect scenario where Trump actually gets into office, I'm just saying that because of the opposition, but if he gets into office, he will review some of the more surface-based info, and then he'll decide if people can really take that or not. Personally, I don't think they can take it, but they're going to have a demonstration in the worst way anyway. Anyway, some things have been happening, Pastor Paul. Things that folks can't ignore. All they have to do is keep living, and they'll be right in the middle of it. The influence is everywhere. It's all over the place, and it does it kind of gives account to why people are the way they are, and it's getting worse. It's getting a lot worse, but Congress is going to take some additional steps and attempt to control some of it when it's being disclosed to people directly, because the true disclosure is going to come, face to face, something nobody wants. Unfortunately, we live in those days.
Mike, you always think that maybe there's a day coming when the president of the United States one day walks out up in front of the podium with the presidential seal in front of him and says, ladies and gentlemen, I have to make an announcement. I have to introduce somebody to you. He is from another world, and he's taking control. It's sort of like it's the moment of introducing the Antichrist. But I mean, is that possible? What I just said?
Well, yeah, but I'll tell you something. I'll say this. Trump went through hell on earth, right, for the last 4 years,
yes, he did.
4 and 3 years. But remember when we had that talk, and I told you, God will often do that sometimes to build a person up. Well, everybody thought it was terrible, this, that, and the other, right? It was actually a crucible. He was tried, stressed out every single day by every apparatus the system could throw at him. And it didn't, he kept his enthusiasm for this country, and he kept going forward. I believe that was a crucible. It's the same standard God used in the Old Testament with anybody who would ever come forward and lead a people. And so what is Trump right now? He's designated a leader of people. And it kind of gives you an idea of what we're going into. A leader like that who is not scared away, right? Who will, in fact, stand up to just about anything for love of his country. It takes a person like that to get people through a very tough and different time. This is going to be a different time. Yes. I mean, a very different time.
Yes.
And even right now, you have all over the world, you have things happening. These agencies are hard pressed to keep it under wraps, Pastor Paul. Now you have, it's all out in the open. It's right in front of people's faces. They'll eventually get exposed to it. Or, for example, a cruise ship, right? They're sitting there watching something for a whole day, under the water, right? Lights moving to. How can something underwater? People are videotaping this thing that's moving at about 500-600 miles an hour.
What?
Zipping, far out and coming back, and then two more come back, and then something else comes up and it goes out, this, that, and the other. Yeah. Yeah, they were sitting there filming that for a whole day. So you have things like that happening, right? And then you have the small things happening that people haven't quite gotten a hold of. Like, okay, let me name something that seems kind of controversial, weird, nothing to worry about. Florida. Remember Florida at the mall, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
If you go back in the archives, Trump even said what's happening at the mall. Here's the funny part.
Yeah.
You look all over America, every time these kids get together and do mischievous things, what do you see? Video.
Yes, you do.
There's not one video. Not one. Don't you find that odd?
What happened?
You mean nobody? Not the cops, not the kids, not the innocent bystanders. No one has video. Don't you see that as impossible?
I see that as that it's been confiscated or erased or something happened, but obviously it had to be on the video, right?
Well, it had they filmed it, but no video. It's on the internet.
No, it's no.
None. Zero. And even the kids and the people who have phones, their videos are gone.
Yes.
They're gone. So, and then nobody speaks of it anymore. Right. And you have cops that come out and they say, well, we're just responding. Yeah, sure you are. Right. First of all, a police officer does not get on YouTube. Right.
No.
And explain to the public anything that goes through his chain of command. Yes. You don't jump the PR mechanism of any police station and make your own comment about these things. You don't do that. Yet you had these alleged cops jumping out in front of everybody, right? Telling people, it's just nothing. That was irregular. That was very irregular, right? Not one video. You find that strange, and you have that happening. Then you have stories about crashed UFOs. Then you have stories about, I believe, for 4 hours over Langley. Thousands of people have video of something hovering over Langley. They try to say it was flares, but there are lots of people with, 3-4 hour videos. A flare does not hang in the sky that long. A helicopter does not stay in that position for that long, not moving a millimeter. And this happens all the time now. This is not just, every other day.
Right.
This is, this is happening on a continuous basis. So much so that the alert status has been raised over the air bases. So you have things like that happening more and more, right? And they're getting bigger. 2 weeks ago, something else about, I believe they said it was, it was something about 600 feet, came from the sky. It looked like a big stick, right? Came down real slow right to the ocean, right? Real
What? Are
slow.
you serious,
And
Mike? Are you
yeah,
serious?
yeah, yes. So you have things like that happening. Now, it's almost like President Trump's interview with Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah. Where did it go?
Everybody wanted to see it, but yet there's no trending on YouTube for it. There was no trending. I mean, they essentially scrubbed that video big time, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you go in the search engine, you couldn't find it. People had it backed up on X, but other than that, you couldn't find it. And Joe Rogan, it's not like he started his YouTube channel yesterday,
No.
right?
No.
So, where did that go? So you're facing an element like that, which means you have there's some folks behind it that have control over things more than the average person. Um, but the world is kind of getting weird. This immorality in the world is going hand in hand with these sightings
Yes. Tell us about
because you
that.
can't separate the UFO subject with immorality, with all these people hunting spirits, and all that stuff goes together. Now, that's part of the unfortunate fact. People don't want to talk. They don't want to face. They're going to face it anyway. Um, because too many have invited those things, back again through, I'll say, through Zachariah Ascension,
Okay.
because his writings, his interpretation of things. For example, there's a demon called Zozo, right? Or
Zozo.
people call him many different names, right? Or Bazuzu. There's
Yes.
one Bazuzu, Zozo, all these. Do you not know that Zechariah Ascension kind of truncated a few names, and he actually deified Bazuzu? Bazuzu was a god over the wind, right? In the Bible, it calls him the Prince of the Air,
Yes.
right? Or Lord of the Lord that flies, things of that
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah.
Those were classifications of known entities. And so essentially what those people were doing was they were doing what God said in the scriptures, worshiping demons as gods
Yes, they
is what they
were.
were
Yes,
doing,
they were.
right?
You're right. You're
So
right.
the Sumerian tales essentially tell the story of the fallen angels.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
do.
intimately the fallen angels.
Yes, they do.
But they deified them. They categorized the underworld and all this stuff. But when you start to look at, because they've taken the entire Sumerian library and at least 2, 3, 400 times have broken that language down fresh. I mean, fresh by computers. And they came up with the same conclusion, the same interpretation. And it was not what Zachariah Ascension had there. He kind of truncated a few things, I believe, on purpose, because he had a biased view of things around him. Anyway, those things have these ceremonies, right? There's like a funeral. Do you not know that a funeral was taken from the Sumerian um, culture? Certain ceremonies at a funeral to appease the spirits, so certain spirits won't come back to the living. So they were doing things like
I mean,
little ceremonies.
didn't the
All this
Egyptians
stuff.
do that, or with the Book of the Dead? I mean, that's really a
Yeah,
funeral.
they did part of it, but the Sumerians do it just like modern day people do it today,
Okay.
just like they do it today, right? So now here's something else a lot of people may not know is some of these practices and cultures were a um, uh, part of an attempt to raise those entities back up again, to
Yes.
free them from their prison. So a lot of people are performing ceremonies they have no clue about. They're living a life and doing things they have no clue about, but what they're actually doing are appeasing spirits,
Mm.
constantly involved in ceremonies. Now, a long time ago, they made this the culture of many different places, right? Many different places.
Yeah.
And I sat in with a couple of guys who were talking about the American experiment. When it began, they started talking about things I never heard before, like the breakaway, coming over here to get away from some of the ritualistic known things that they were doing under a monarchy. One of the reasons why back then a king would rule your faith and government at the same
You're
time,
talking about the
right?
UK. I mean, the monarchy of the United Kingdom.
So they broke away and came to America to put a halt to that.
Okay.
And it was so strong, it was so evil that we end up with a constitution to stay away from that evil. So that evil never rises up again. Most people today, they can't see, what's the big deal about the Constitution? Well, they don't know what they escaped from.
Let me ask you,
don't know that.
remember when Prince Charles became King Charles, in the ceremony of coordinating the coronation, we seen that weird dude, that weird entity go across in the front. It was going on during the ceremony, and it was.
Yeah.
I mean, was there? And the rumors I'm hearing is there was another ceremony going on during the public ceremony, something much darker, something much more cultic. Is that what you're saying? That the Church of England, or let's say the English monarchy, was involved in more than just what meets the eye?
Well, they were. It's their culture. See,
Okay.
they see nothing wrong with it. They
Okay.
don't. They're not looking at it as evil or anything like that, right? It's just part of their heritage.
It's a ritual. It's a ritual of the monarchy, is what you're saying.
But it's rooted in something that actually attempts to release demonic entities onto the surface of the earth. One of those demons, by the way, changes. It creates a desire for men and women, to men and women, right? So the evidence is all over it. Now, what people will find out eventually is once they go through this UFO thing, they're going to find out certain about a war. They're going to find out about the 13 or the 14 levels above the president's clearance. There are 14 levels of government he can't even get to.
Above Trump, right? I mean, when President Trump
above
goes in,
the president. That's right. He has no access whatsoever.
He has no idea what's there.
Here's the bad part about it is you cannot fight these. You can't fight those agencies with all the weapons in the world. Right? These guys have access to stuff that's been on this earth for a long time. And, but people will come out. They're going to tell people, they're going to say, hey, I have seen huge slabs of things floating right in front of my face. I've seen large, plate-shaped UFOs in which military trucks go in and out all day. And they'll hopefully they don't tell people what's on the trucks. But it's a sickness. These people are sick. That's not some glorified,
that's not good
topic or subject. The entities themselves, in Florida, for example, they weren't aliens; those were demons.
You're talking about what happened down there in that mall in Miami, in Florida.
That was demonic. That had nothing to do with aliens. It was, well, you can call them the same thing.
It's the same thing
because they both do the same thing. But
But let me ask you.
There are people hurt by that.
Okay. Okay. So all the video we never did. I mean, we can't get our hands.
No video. Not even simple video.
It was just all confiscated or wiped away or just just taken from everybody, deleted.
They do know because they have it on. They recorded. Too many people have an audio recording of the exact same thing. They know that the police were checking their phones to make sure that nobody had video.
Wow.
But now the cops don't have video either.
Right.
See, all they had to do was come forward and give one of their, dash cams or something like that to disprove the whole thing and settle it. But they can't. They can't do it. They just can't do it. The kids, they were doing mischievous things, right? For about, 2 seconds or something, and having fun. But then something else happened. And adults started, crying out to, what in the world is that? They were just messed up for a while. And but too many little children describe the exact same thing. Something popping in and out, and then it was ugly.
Are you connecting the dots now, Mike, from the alien issue and the occultic rituals?
There you go.
Above
It's
all,
not open up. It's not open up.
Let's go. Okay, talk to us about this. The
Okay.
occultic practices and the alien phenomenon.
Yeah, back in the 18 or 1700s here in the USA, of course, 17, 18, and 1900s, you have Native Americans here. Not all
Yes.
Native Americans were good, right? Some of those Native Americans, they knew about curses, and so did some of the people who came over here. There were things encountered when they came over here, right? Some of the generals wrote about it,
Yes, they
of what
did.
they encountered when they came over
Giants.
here, and yeah, those and some other things, and the UFO things, the three little lights. They were over here, right back in the Civil War. And why would they see the same thing we see today? The exact same thing. The three lights with one red light in the middle, or amber light in the middle, right? Same thing. Or the orbs, different color orbs, or different cigar-shaped UFO. They saw them. They saw them. They wrote about it. So they've been seeing these things. These things come up and they observe. Just in case nobody knows, normally they don't fly out into the sky when they're finished. They go back over the oceans and go down into the oceans, is what they normally do. So whatever they are, they've been here for a long time. Right.
Okay. Yep.
And if you think about it, a lot of people say, well, we should have seen one by now. Okay. Well, have you ever seen a Tasmanian devil? They've been around for a long time.
Yeah,
Never saw one of those.
No.
I know there are bears all over the place, but everybody does not see a bear. Everybody does not see a snake. Everybody does not see, certain animals that have been all around for a long time. They just don't see them. Same thing here. It's the exact same thing here. Of course, those days are ending. Why? Because society has become very conducive of their environment. They can only operate in an environment where people stand against Christ. So wherever you find an absence of Christ, you're going to find them. In fact, the one who, in the Bible where it says, um, um, iniquity is hidden, because the one who letteth will continue to let until he be taken out of the way.
Yes, it says that.
And then after he's taken out of the way, that wicked will be revealed. I strongly believe with all my heart we're about to hit that moment where things will be revealed. And it's not going to be the good day that everybody thought it was going to be.
Yeah, you're in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. You're talking about this Antichrist. We're on the verge of the Antichrist era.
And even, that's right, and even before him,
okay.
When iniquity is revealed, it's going to be revealed in people first.
Amen.
It's going to start surfacing in people. People will, and the Bible says people start falling away.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What's happening now? People are falling away.
Yes.
Right. So this world that we have, the promise of, it's almost like when you were young, you had a definite promise somehow. Tomorrow's not promised to anybody, but somehow you could feel you were going to be here tomorrow, that you had an opportunity, the day coming up. But that's gone now. People don't have that now. They don't know what's coming. In fact, they wake up every day hunting to find out what went wrong. Right? This is becoming a common practice with everybody. So something has altered spiritually. And I just simply think we're in the times now where darkness, especially with Trump at the helm for America, somebody who's resilient, who won't fold, who will stay on course. That's exactly what's needed before anybody goes through anything. We wouldn't survive with anybody else because they're not stubborn enough in the right areas of life. They're just not.
I agree. He was God's man for this moment because nobody else, really, I don't know anybody who could have taken this much abuse.
They can't. God had him. He was being trained.
Yeah.
That's what happened. He was being strengthened. His resolve was being tested for what's coming about. Because you know what? Even these folks that are far right liberals, Pastor, you wouldn't believe.
Far left. Yeah.
How many? Far left liberals. How many are out there who are now engaging in some? I'll tell you something. I'd feel better if Trump were to go ahead and get in the White House right now, because there are too many mounting up against everything. I mean, this
witches,
country, we're going to see a split of splits is what we're going to see. We're going to see Christ haters come forward.
Yeah,
I literally mean Christ haters. And unfortunately, the majority of those who hate Christ are school teachers.
What? Well, you're right. You know what he's getting ready to do? He said he's going to take the Department of Education out of Washington and split it out into all the states and let the states send the money to the states and say, you run your own school systems.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
He's going to shut down the building. He's literally going to shut down the Department of Education. And
Department of Education is going to be shut down.
That is so huge. I mean, that's a gigantic decision that's going to change society, because when you take away the education, the propaganda of children is what brought about this corrupt society. What if you could give the children back to the parental guidance of each local school district? Wouldn't it be the curriculum and the structure of it all? It would be unbelievable.
Pastor, because it only takes one principal, right, to mess the whole school up.
Yep.
Just one principal.
Just one.
That's it. And so we have a situation where you have these 1 or 2 teachers per school who are just inherently evil. I mean, they're evil. They don't like Christ. They have a little group now, right? They have little places where they go. I've gone to some of those places online where they go to look at what they're saying, and oh my Lord, have mercy, you would not want to read what they're saying. They hate Christ. They hate Christ. They hate the right because of Christ, not because of the policies or anything else.
No, it's because of Christ.
And these are the same people who said, do not bring prayer back into school.
Yeah.
The same people. So you have, even in Florida, you've got, it's like they're undercover, but it's only you're looking at 1 or 2 per school. These are school teachers, administrators. But President Trump, he understands what's in the Department of Education. That's why he's doing what he's doing. When the states have that power again, and they have no federal mandate or funding where they have to stay alive, things will change. But I'll tell you something, it's going to come with a fight of fights.
Yes.
Not only a physical fight, there'll be a large spiritual fight. Not only that, but Satan just loves shock and awe, meaning he loves to surprise people with things that will give them heart attacks. And in the Bible, it says that people's hearts are going to fail them for fear, right?
Yes.
So we're going to have a lot of uncovering going forward. We're just in that era right now, a lot of uncovering.
It's going to be incredible battles. If you think it's going to be...
it's a true uncovering of evil itself.
Yes.
It really is.
Okay.
It really is.
Let me ask you a couple more things here. I mean, we're going to get to December 14th in a minute, because they have lit up my emails over this one. But before I do, let me ask you about the God of darkness. There was an article that came out, of course, about Apophis, that it's on its way, that it's going to come very close to the earth. And now scientists are saying that the earth's gravitational pull is going to shake violently this asteroid. This asteroid is huge, and it's going to come extremely close. And they believe the violent earthquakes are going to disengage, or it's going to break apart some pieces of it off, or whatever. So I've been studying this for 20 years. When it was first discovered in 2004. It's been 20 years. Now we're 4 years away. Friday the 13th. Do you believe, Mike, that there's more to this story? They named it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Can you? Is there anything you could share about this? It's Friday the 13th, April 2029.
Yeah. First of all, they've had a pretty consistent story from the beginning, except the dates, right? And except what it's going to do when it comes back. At first, they said it was going to go through a keyhole. Absolutely. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Here's the problem. You have an object that's gone way out there into space, and it's coming back, right?
Yep.
If it comes back on target based on their calculations, then there's no problem for us other than that. And I say that because there's nothing out there to obstruct that thing.
Okay.
Right? That means it's clear space. Whenever you have something that goes out there and it comes back and there's no problem, then everything is clear. Right? Everything is clear. So you can add more time to the timetable. Well, for that. But if that's not true, if we have other gravitational influences, you can forget about that.
Okay,
start worrying about the other things.
Here we go with planet A. Okay, so if we take a binary system, the influence of it And other,
You can't have Apophis.
you can't. Okay, what do you mean?
You cannot. It's going to take it off course. They calculated the return of Apophis based upon its exit, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if there is an external force that is pulling on anything, it will obstruct up that trajectory of Apophis. It's not going to follow the same track.
I agree.
It's just not going to do it.
No.
Now, if it does follow the same track, there's nothing out there.
Oh, but it's not following the same track. You know it's not. There is something out there. So you're saying we're going to know a whole lot about what's out there based on what this thing does when it comes by, or if it hits us, or if it. You know.
When it starts coming inbound, when they actually start tracking it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, close tracking. If they can't find it, well, then we're in for a bad day, right? That means something is very close. Because I'll tell you, everything is like the earthquakes the Earth has been having, right? As a binary star comes closer, it's going to vibrate everything else. Now, this happens very slowly, but it vibrates. That means all the planets should have tectonic or some type of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. And it just so happens that they do, right?
Wow. Yeah.
All of them are vibrating,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
Because when you're looking at size and ratios, that vibration is still going to shake things loose. So they should have the same increase in earthquakes and volcanism as we do. All the planets should. And if once you start tracking that, then you start to see it like, why are they in sync? And that means something else. Now, they also do the same thing. The sun, right? Now, if the sun were separate from the activity of the planets, we'd be okay. That means that the sun is causing all of this, right? But here's the problem. When the Earth goes through these moments of eruption and earthquakes, and Mars does the same, and even the moon starts vibrating, and things start happening on Venus and all these other planets they can actually track, the sun starts doing it too. So it's not like the sun does it first and then everything else follows. No, the sun does it the same time it happens on the earth. So the same force
is
hitting
affecting
everything
the sun,
at the
the
same
moon,
time.
the earth, and all
There
the
you go.
planets, which is
There you go.
what Avi Loeb told me in that interview earlier this summer, past summer, is when he said, "Oh, we know right where it's at, based on the mathematical calculation of the effect of the gravitational pull on every planet, the moon and the sun." We know where it's at. We just can't see it because it's too dark out there. It's too far. It's too dark.
There you go.
But you're
That's
saying
right.
they're going to study this Apophis. And they did. Matter of fact, they announced right here that as Apophis goes by, they're going to send this spacecraft called NASA's Osiris Apex. This thing is going to follow Apophis for 18 months.
Of course
and observe the face of it to see just how much of the planet has been stripped away, how much is broke off, what changes it to
It would make sense, when you're trying to find out if something has shifted its path, that's when you follow it.
Well, they're going to follow it. They're going to follow it.
That's right. That's when you follow it. When you have to have the calculations exact.
Because are you worried about any pieces of it breaking off or any companion rocks following with it to hit the Earth? Are you
before it comes? To be honest, I'm really not worried about Apophis too much.
Okay,
right?
No,
because of other things. Now, again, there are things that are detectable. It's very difficult to judge distance until we get that first influx hitting the Earth, right?
Meteorites,
the first
asteroids,
light meteor storm that we have on the Earth. Then the timing to everything else would be okay. So basically, everybody is waiting on that first meteor storm.
Now, that's going to happen before Apophis gets here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you give us a time on
that? That's the consensus. It's extremely difficult, Pascal, to judge the absolute times because
I understand.
a lot of us were convinced it was going to happen last year.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Not this, but last year. And it didn't. It didn't. I mean, we had a slight increase in things that were untrackable, but that wasn't enough to definitely say here it is. No, we're going to know when it's here because we're going to have fires all over the place.
Okay.
Now, I can tell you right now, people will see flashes, in the sky, maybe every couple of hours or something like that. It's going to cause a lot of fires. And as you know, we can't deal with fires. So when it starts, everything will be, it'll start to burn. When that happens, then the timing will be a bit more precise, right? It's very difficult to judge because you have to go through certain regions of space where optics essentially are, you're looking at a redirection of light in some cases, gravitational wells, different forces that you have to navigate out there, which is why the Webb telescope, um, the J-Wave out there is doing such a good
Yes.
job because it's
Yes.
outside certain fields. They knew with Voyager 1 and 2 that we had something tugging at the entire solar system. And indeed, in the electronics, in the programming of both those craft, you have adjustments for that. Every craft that goes out in space has to make adjustments for specific gravitational pulls, right? It even gives, it's for the guys at the better they give the orders at the time, like Elon. He knows why our axis is the way it is. It's pointing at something, right? That's nothing but an offset to a larger gravitational pull, because the Earth's axis is kind of shared with other objects. It's just a shame because the narrative has been controlled by scientists who normally work for other folks in government who protect secrets. And of course, they're not going to publish what's really happening out there. I
But
think they will now. I think it's going to be confusing for some folks. I know for a fact they're going to have to rewrite textbooks because that's what they're talking about now. Some of the lies that have been taught that people, some people think they know about what's out there, but they really don't. And other people can't talk about it because they'll go to jail or, something
right.
bad will happen. So now that
Elon Musk?
Trump is not playing, right?
No, he's not playing.
And Elon Musk doesn't give up either, right?
No.
Because if you saw his life story, you'd be like, go Elon,
Yeah.
basically. Um,
What do you think okay, so obviously Elon Musk, who's the king of space right now, he knows about Planet X. He knows exactly what's going on in this. He knows something's affecting the entire.
yeah, he does.
He has to. This guy could take a rocket ship into space and bring it back and drop it right in between arms.
He did
No,
everything.
Nobody can
He
do
did
it.
everything that the problem with Elon, because he said all of his heroes let him down, right? He has a photographic memory.
Yeah, he does.
He can, when he reads something, he can recall it. He can see the picture of it
instantly.
So he can remember things really good. And all the astronauts, they would not support him. So, and that made him cry. He cried over that on TV. He did, because that hurt him to his heart, man.
Because he knew they knew, and yet they wouldn't reveal, and that hurt him.
They wouldn't endorse anything. They wouldn't support what he was trying to do. They said it wouldn't work. But what they were doing by saying it wouldn't work was they were trying to discourage him from ever stumbling on to some of the breakthroughs they have. Because as it turns out, some of these breakthroughs and some of these magical things people see, the science is not that difficult. It's not. They just make it seem difficult. Well, we're humanity. We don't like simple. We have to complicate everything, right? We have to, but things are so simple, right? I guess the more complicated it is, more comfortable people are. But Elon is one. He didn't give up, and he stumbled onto things, and he made things work that they said would not work. And so now he has a lot of defense contracts.
Yes,
right?
He
because
does.
If you can't beat him, you better join him.
Better
so
join
you keep
him.
eyes on him. But now, right, due to his position, things will be uncovered.
Yeah.
But the world's not going to like it.
No.
We're going to have to get through some traumatic moments of learning things.
Let's talk about. There's some more things I want to ask you about, but I got to ask you about December 14th again. I mean, so something. Let me just tell you what happened. So Heidi and I, we've been inundated with people asking, what does Mike mean by December 14th and all that. Heidi research said, what is going to happen on December 14th everywhere? She searched everywhere. She asked AI. Here's what AI said, Mike. December 14th, 2024 is a date of particular interest because it will mark a solar eclipse, specifically a total solar eclipse. This event will be visible across parts of North America, with the path of totality spanning from the Pacific Ocean through Mexico and parts of the United States and into Central America. Observers along the path of totality will experience the sky darkening as the moon fully covers the sun, creating a striking visual effect. And outside the path of this totality, a partial eclipse will be visible in other regions across North and South America. There will be an opportunity for those interested in astronomy or rare celestial events to witness something special. Mike, there's not a solar eclipse scheduled at all for this day.
No.
So what is AI doing? Is this the full deception, or is that second moon? Is the only thing I can
Let
think.
me see. Let me give you a hint.
Okay.
Okay. Because I'm sure your listeners will probably attempt to emulate this. So let me give you a hint. Let me give everybody a hint of something. That should have been response number one. Response number two should be different. That's all I'll say. So that way, because your listeners are going to go out there and use their little AI things to try and find an answer.
Right.
So I just clarified something.
So
I just gave them a piece of information.
This is just
Just gave them some insight.
bogus. This is bogus info number one, or is
that's just response number one.
Well, can I ask you?
That should be response number one?
Is the second moon? This is all I could come up with was Heidi. Is the
AI.
second moon going to get in front of the sun or something that day, or do something?
Well, there are other things that have been in front of the sun, but people don't look up in the daytime. That thing is so small, right? It wouldn't make a difference, even if it did. The other day, something was in front of the sun, and nobody seemed to notice, right? In fact, I believe in a few more days, something else will be in front of the sun.
Are we talking Planet
people
X?
Are not looking.
Are we talking Nibiru, one of the moons?
December 13th, December 14th, right? We're going up to that date.
Yes.
I've named it something. I've named it Babylon's Hour.
Babylon's Hour.
Yeah, that's what I named it. So it should give context to that date, right? I'm quite serious about that date. So I just named that Babylon's Hour.
Well, that's the beast kingdom here. You're talking now.
Well,
are you moving? So we're not talking space now. Are you moving this thing into more of a political or spiritual mystery Babylon's Hour? I mean,
that's inclusive of quite a bit because
that's a big statement.
In the Bible at the end, Babylon is it burns.
Yes, it does.
Babylon's is actually the focal point for a time, and everybody sees it, and something happens.
So
I'm just calling that Babylon's Hour.
So we're going to take this hint and come back to you next week. That Babylon's Hour. So that everybody go do your research. Go do the digging, and we'll be asking Mike a little more about it next.
I'll tell you, Pastor Paul, something spiritual is happening on this earth to people who have no relationship with Christ. That is mind blowing. Tell me how, right? I mean, unless you witness it, is almost unbelievable. But tell me how people who have not given their life to Christ in America, young people, how in the world of all times would they of all times start to have these dreams about things that even the standard Christian, if you don't look it up, you won't know it, right? Very intimate details that take a lot of time to find the answer to. It's almost like the Lord is starting to reach a whole bunch of folks all at one time, giving them almost like, because these kids, based on what they're saying, are changing their lives. I mean, big time. Imagine a person who is a kind of a rebel, who stops everything, Pastor Paul, and just goes and gets a Bible and locks themselves in a house to get their life right now. And the feedback is always, I'm contemplating my life, my sin, right?
Wow.
So whatever's happening to them, it's altering them. In one night, it alters them. This is starting to happen all over the place. I mean, with people you wouldn't suspect. Folks you wouldn't suspect is happening to.
That's true.
There's something is happening big time, and it will continue to build. And it will be a very physical thing here very soon.
All right.
Because the USA, we're still in trouble. Have you noticed the fires taking place?
Yes.
Right?
It's in all the way
places
New
where they
Jersey
shouldn't be.
To California, places it shouldn't be.
Tinder boxes.
Yes.
Tinder boxes.
Yes.
And next week coming up, Florida could have a problem. right?
Yeah, we're
That
worried
storm
about it.
coming up, they could have a
Yes,
problem.
we're
That's
worried.
not the only problem. There are more vortices that they're starting to look at that in another 3 weeks, 2 and 3 weeks could pose an issue, right? So we have weather totally out of season. Um, we've got a special cold event that's going to be forming here very soon because the parts of the north are not like they used to be. They're just not due to it almost seems like a even more compression of the jet stream. We're going to have some wild temperature swings.
Cold and wind.
I
Are we going to have high wind and bitter cold?
Very high winds. They're looking for, what is that, 90? They said winds in certain parts of the north this winter could reach, sustained 95 miles an hour.
That's
Kind of like
crazy.
California the other day
Yeah,
when they were having to bring those fires. It was, I believe they said they had 80. That was
80
sustained
mile an
winds
hour.
of above 80, above
Yeah.
80.
Santa Ana
So
winds.
same
Santa
thing.
Ana
Yeah,
winds
same
over
thing.
80 mile an hour with fires burning. And then Colorado had 4.5 feet of snow with seven.
From one small system that just ballooned. I mean, it just ballooned, and we're going to have those back to back to back to back to back.
So you're saying it's going to be a really bad winter in the north?
And this when it starts to break, when the temperatures start to change, we're going to see something different. If people barely survived. This summer was hot, right?
Yeah, it was hot.
If they think it was hot this summer, they have no clue what we're about to step into.
This
Right?
has been three
Zero clue.
summers in a row. Oh, so are we
We're
going to
just getting started.
are we
We're
going to have
just getting
another real
started.
hot summer next
Yep,
year?
we're just getting started.
And you're saying
so
the winters are going to get colder and windier and bitter, and the summers are going to get hotter and hotter and hotter.
yeah, this winter is going to be very difficult to track because I wouldn't be surprised if it go from minus 10 degrees to 80 degrees in one day in certain places.
No, that's not right. I mean,
And Florida won't be safe. They're going to have some pretty low temperatures this year, right? But moisture, that's going to release moisture in the air. We have the problem with the fronts, and
yeah.
the groundwater is still even anyway. But all this is
Okay.
part of the change.
Okay,
It's
so
a buildup.
we're going to be talking about this again. We got a couple more things.
Yes.
People want to know about Bitcoin. Bitcoin hit 93. I think it was 87 a couple hours ago. I don't know where it's at right this now. Mike, is this thing going to go to like 120? I'm hearing some of the experts saying maybe it goes to 120, 130. Are we going to see an extreme
It's going to go
high
up
and
there.
extreme lows?
Oh, yeah.
Or what's it going to do?
Yep. I'll stick with that. At the beginning of the year, when nobody was talking about Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
I was saying it would hit about up there in the hundreds, 120, 40, somewhere around there.
Will it stay there or will it crash?
Bitcoin is going to fluctuate. It's going to level off, and because you have a lot of attachments to Bitcoin, but every country has jumped in on Bitcoin. The system of Bitcoin is not going anywhere. Right? It's just not.
No, it's not going nowhere.
People are going to find that out with what the USA did with Bitcoin. So they'll find that out. It's like a permanent fixture. Many countries are utilizing Bitcoin to pay their bills now. You know that?
Yeah, I know. Yes.
And for all those, there's a lot of people out there, they think Bitcoin is a fluke.
No.
Well, but it's not a fluke because if you have a Bitcoin right now, you can go get your money out of PayPal. You can go get your money out the bank. All the banks by the end of this year, right, will be able to do transactions with Bitcoin. All of them. And so it's going to go up there. Right now, I'll tell you right now, it's being leveled off because it's lots of people have bought into Bitcoin.
Yes.
The value is they're trying their best to hold it down. I'm just telling you what I know.
But they can't hold it down because
it's going to pop. Yeah. The value is going to go up there, and it won't be an inflated value. It's going to be a real value, and
it's because
those who missed out have just lost.
It's because these other countries are going to jump in, and that's just going to drive that price up. Because
it's just now. It's just now beginning. It's just now beginning. Now, I do have to say this: that same system will no doubt be utilized in the
The beast.
as a control system in the kingdom of the beast.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because of its resiliency and the control mechanisms you can actually put on Bitcoin, right? You cannot go and fake a Bitcoin somewhere. You can't do that.
No.
And you can't even, it's hard to be, you can't fake a token or anything else. So that's going to be a solid system they're going to utilize for the beast system, which, by the way, should pop in. And Trump at the helm, I'll tell you, he's got a fight on his hands, because next year is when all this stuff was supposed to be released.
What is he going to do about that?
What I mean released is because you got all the retails. Well, right now, if people would go and look, a lot of retail stores are shutting down. They're consolidating.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to the online option.
Absolutely.
Why? Because cash is gone. We already live in a cashless society right now, right? Nobody's using, even to process cash, you have to go to every, store has to go to some kind of clearinghouse. So the system is coming on board. It's coming on board. I personally, I'll make a judgment call here. If Trump gets into office, he's going to have a real fight on his hands to attempt to salvage as many people as he can from what the rest of the world is going to do, because China, these other countries, he can't trust them. No. Pastor, before he gets in the office, I'm telling you right now, there are hits on him like you wouldn't believe. In 2016, he had about 90 death threats per day, legitimate ones. You know, that number has skyrocketed. And now entire countries are after him and now from within America, because he's going to reorder America. Everybody that affects in the wrong way is they're angry. I'm telling you, they're angry now.
I know.
And so, it's just going to be it's going to be that tug of war.
For the first time in history, Donald Trump went to Washington, was never seen going into the Capitol or coming out. He was never seen going in the White House or coming out. There's never been a president, a king, a prime minister ever that didn't have cameras watching him walking in the front door and being welcomed into the White House.
Yeah.
This man must have more nations, drones, killers, lasers from the sky. I don't know what all that are trying teams of assassins that are literally trying to kill him from several nations, as you said. There's never been anything like this.
No.
It's only at the hand of God, and it's going to take the church praying for him daily.
That's right.
Daily,
That's right. Because the worst case scenario would be not actually him, dying. The worst case scenario is for Satan to get a hold of him and change him some sort of way. Because I know if the church does not cover President Trump, right? Because he may not be able to cover himself like everybody wants him to cover himself.
We got to do it.
But the church can cover him, and based upon the church's prayers, he will be covered. Doesn't matter what comes.
That's right.
But if the church does not cover him, he's open to Satan. Satan loves to usurp power. So he will gladly enter into somebody at the top and tear everybody to shreds underneath. It's kind of like Judas in Genesis. You know how a lot of people say, well, Satan has children, right? And Satan can create. No, he can't create anything. And the only seed he has is his influence, those imps and everything else connected to him. And Christ talked about that, because in John 13:18, when he was talking about Judas, whom he had chosen, the one that would break bread with him, he would lift up his heel against him. And that goes right with Genesis 3:15, right? He'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. There you go. So that's a dead giveaway. And in that same betrayal, when Jesus said, when David spoke, he spoke of me.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Well, check this out. John 13:18 is the same as Psalms 41:9. It says, yea, mine own familiar friend, in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, lifted up his heel against
That's
me.
Judas. That was Judas. He ate his bread.
Same thing Jesus said.
Yeah, Jesus said, he said to Judas, he said, what you're going to do, go do it. Do it quickly.
Do it quickly.
And he dipped the sop, and he went straight out, and it says the Satan entered into him. Satan entered into him at that moment.
So that's how his seed is in the earth. So these fallen ones have been attempting, right, to corrupt humanity yet again. If humanity is corrupted, there is no salvation.
Now,
And he don't, if it were about killing us, that's so easy.
that's
He don't want to
easy.
kill us.
He
He
wants us
wants to
to
corrupt us.
worship him. He wants to
That's
corrupt us.
right. He
All
wants
right,
to corrupt
Mike,
us.
one more question. It's a little thicker. But we need your thought.
I'll answer it. Go ahead.
Okay. And Heidi brought this one up, and so I've saved it for
okay.
last. She said, ask Mike, the social experiment that we've been under by changing our children's curriculum, by propaganda, by mass media, by indoctrination of different the media, the Hollywood, every way. This social experiment that we've been under, but it seemed like it failed. Does Mike understand why in the world did they not convince the American people to follow this left agenda? Why did the social experiment fail?
Okay, here we go. Now here it is.
Okay.
It didn't fail.
Okay.
That's the sad part.
That's horrible.
It did not fail. Listen, sometimes when, well, just about in every case, when you have psyops happening, right? There's always a conscience switch you have to connect with people. They have to end it themselves. In other words, once they put closure to it, they'll never investigate it and turn it over. So think of it as a seal.
Okay.
Think of it as a seal. It's sealed in. Because if people think, if they really do believe it did not work, then how they're affected and living their lives right now, they will never put into question. But here's the challenge right here. Right now, there's almost a vicious element to humanity. And you can investigate, you can see those who believe in Christ. You don't have to look at the world. Just look at anybody who knows Christ. We know what we deal with in the flesh. And some of the harshest fights anybody will ever have come from fellow believers, right? In other words, any difference in doctrine, you have an instant quarrel, a fight, vicious.
Right.
You have folks
right.
who will turn from a sheep to a dragon in a heartbeat and then play victim when it comes back. All of that has been documented a long time ago. They planned on breaking down, right, the foundations of Christians when they wrote the Constitution. Now, not the founding fathers did not do this. This happened through foreigners who slipped in, who were always trying to ruin the American, way of life. They tried to hand it over to Satan himself, which is why you have open witchcraft in this country. That began a long time ago. That's not recent.
I agree.
You have people like Madame Blavatsky. You have people who have had some large ceremonies. You had those who went out into space, and they had a ceremony at the space station.
Wow.
A satanic ceremony.
Wow.
In the space station.
That's worse than CERN. That's worse than CERN.
If you start to look at, and I'll continue to say this, why in the world would the U.S. and indeed the world on their military patches use iconography from demonic entities?
Yeah.
Paying homage to Apollo and the dragon on a continuous basis.
You're right.
Right? Why would they do that? And then why would their message be to master the human domain? Why?
They're using the occult.
Well, that's what's all over the world. If they can make it invisible, no one fights it. And right now it's invisible and it's in full effect.
I see.
It's in full effect. Now that can be unpackaged.
It's hidden in plain sight, is what you're saying.
But there's a whole lot to unpack in that, because if people knew what they were complicit with, it would make them sick. They would hit the denial first, saying there's no way, because a lot of people want proof, right? Oh, show me proof of this, that, and the other. We can get the proof all day. They're not going to like it, right? They just won't like it. All they have to do is misname something. Now, all they have to do is misname something, and then people will have it. They can make it popular in culture, and people will. That's just like God can give a commandment, but if it's popular in society, people will follow society over God's commandment. They do it we do it all the time. In most cases, we're not even aware that we're doing it. So imagine a bunch of people who do love the Lord, but who are complicit with being in disobedience with the living God, and it's right there, and we don't even know we're doing it.
One last question, Mike.
Yes, sir.
People are there's rumors that are spreading all over the internet, and that there are FEMA trucks that are gathering in certain locations in Michigan for something. Is that just false rumors, or is there an actual, or maybe it isn't even FEMA? Is there an actual operation taking
Well,
place?
there are several locations right now, right, where you're going to have some movements take place. You will. This,
Not just
I'm
Michigan,
not,
in other words.
no, not just Michigan. It's not. It's not just for one place. Um, Here's the deal: we have an inbound president
Yes.
who is going to reorder things in more of a common sense way,
Yes.
without all the bureaucracy, this steeped in darkness and mystique. He's going to take all that away.
Yes.
Right now, the people who are in power are the ones he's going to remove out of the way. They're
Yes.
still in power.
Yes.
Now, if they're in power right now, do you really think they're just going to give it in? So that's almost like saying, well, the
Nope.
devil just quit.
Nope.
The devil just quit. And not to call all of them the devil, because what they do is they get innocent people to believe in dark doctrines.
And they get them to
And
do
then
their
that's how they
bidding.
continue to do things.
Right.
But, Pastor, you really think they're going to give up their
Nope.
positions so quickly?
Nope.
As soon as Donald Trump won this election, everybody should have taken notice that on the news you started hearing this one thing: Iran is attempting to assassinate Donald Trump.
Every day you hear that.
Now, any other time in history, if somebody would say something like that, even the president would say, well, let them try. We're fully protected over here, right? The only way Donald Trump cannot be protected is if somebody opens up the door and
Oh,
says,
yeah.
come on in and get him.
Yep.
In other words, if anything we're able to get to Donald Trump is because somebody
Has
let
opened
them
the
in.
door.
And not that the person snuck in, they let them in. But they have a couple of suspects out there, right?
No.
They're hunting some people right now, active people right now that are after Trump, right? So I'm telling you what they're doing. They normally do this to set up. Uh, they give out these stories because people start believing in this. Oh no, Iran is after Trump, and then people believe that, they eat it up. So when something
Is that
happens,
cover
they'll
for
say,
someone?
Iran did it. So what they're
Yeah.
trying to do is cultivate. They're
They're
trying to
make
cultivate
they're using
the psyche
Iran
of
for
people.
cover. They're using Iran.
Yeah.
Will Trump even get sworn in on the inaugural steps of the Capitol, or will this be? Will he even get? I don't even know if he'll get to walk out there and put his hand on the Bible in the normal setting because of concern and security. Am I wrong by saying I'm not sure that's even going to happen?
No, I'm not either. I'm in hopes. But I know that the Lord knows what He's doing. Um,
I mean, he may have
but
to do this. He may have to be sworn in the White House or in the Capitol, or not in front of the public and out there like we've always seen. I'm not so sure he's even going to get to do it.
well, I tell you what, prayer works,
I
and
know.
I strongly believe that if the church continues to pray for Trump, um, then the Lord will, and because there's no way the Lord will ignore a call of unity for something of
Amen.
good in this nation.
Amen to
He's
that.
not going to ignore that, and so he's, that is sealed. Um,
We better pray then.
the bigger issue is, but see, Christians, they're being targeted too.
Oh, I know.
You got to realize that most of America has given their decision. They've given their choice. They've selected a side, right? So all those in opposition have us under the same umbrella. And we know a kingdom of the beast is coming. And there are a lot of elements within the USA that do not belong in the USA. And somehow they're going to have to go, but they're not going easily. They're not.
Well, Mike.
And so,
Mike, I'm just a little country preacher. Okay. But the death threats on me have increased exponentially.
I know. Yeah, I know.
And I don't say anything about it, but Heidi and everybody else that protects and prays. But I'm just saying that tonight, just so that people will pray for the Christians, for the pastors, Mike, for me, for others. But I'm nothing. So if I'm nothing and they've increased exponentially, what is the hatred toward Donald Trump?
Right.
But I'm not afraid of it at all, because look, if you really believe in God and believe in Jesus, I'm not going to be stupid, okay?
Right.
But if you really believe in Jesus and the blood of Christ, you're not afraid of nothing, which I know you're not. But at the same time, maybe it's good to let the Christians know, keep praying, okay? Don't let down.
That's right. That's right. You know, even Jesus, he walked through the crowd of people who wanted to kill him, and they couldn't kill him. You know why? Because he said the ones who wanted to kill him said, we can't do this because of the crowd. So I'll tell you something, Pastor Paul, the people who watch you, who know about you and everything else, they do pray for you.
I know.
And they are your covering. Along with the Lord, they are your physical covering here on the earth.
Thank you, Jesus.
And so, well, that's why you're dug in like an Alabama tick and nobody can get you out. So that's just the way it's going to work.
I love that one. I'm going to use that myself. I'm dug in like an Alabama tick. Mike, thank you so much tonight. I mean, thank you for your patience, because I know I was firing some stuff at you, but I really thank you tonight for being really honest with us and giving us hope and giving us the truth and giving us more to dig in and pray about. So, Mike, thank you so much. And this webinar we got coming up, Mike, on December 6th, we're going to be filming here pretty soon for you. This spiritual warfare, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
You gotta bring the
I'm
best
gonna
you
unpack. I'm gonna unpack some of what Heidi was talking about.
Okay,
I'm gonna unpack that. Here's the worst thing. The worst thing in the world is when people find out the depth of muck they've been in for a long time. Because when they finally get out, there are no more curses on that person. I know there are Christians out there, right, who have heaviness or something on them, or they can't reach to a certain level. It seems like they keep getting knocked down spiritually.
Right.
But see, God said he would not have us ignorant concerning the devices of the enemy. So then there are people in position who know exactly what darkness is doing.
Wow.
And it's just going to be opened up like a can of worms.
So Heidi's social experiment thing, you're going to unpack this thing for us.
Yep.
Oh, it's going to be good. Mike, thank you so much for tonight. I feel like an Alabama tick right now. I really do.
Pastor Paul, God bless you. It's always an honor, brother.
All right. The honor's mine, Mike. Trust me. Thank you, brother. I love you.
All right.
God bless.
God bless.